Hello all. It's so nice to see so many of you here. I don't know if all of you know that this is actually Aalto University lecture on a course called Changemakers. And we've had a couple of excellent speeches this fall before this. And I think this time this is going to be the biggest one yet. And I hope we will continue the series later on. But I just cannot let this opportunity go unused to tell you about this wonderful conference I bet many of you already know, called Slush, in 21st and 22nd of November. Please, everybody, you're welcome to come there to see all the hottest startups in the Northern Europe and Russia, and maybe even get recruited. But back to this night's schedule. Tonight we have a serial entrepreneur originating from Helsinki School of Technology. He was the CEO of MySQL when it got acquired by Sun Microsystems for 1 billion euros, so that's quite something. And currently he's the CEO of Eucalyptus Systems, sorry my pronunciation, and yeah. A good guy. Please welcome Mårten Mickos.
Thank you for the kind introduction. It's great to hear that you have great speakers here before, and I'm sorry that I'm the one now here, but I'll try to keep up the quality. So, hello everybody, great to be back here. Lots of good old friends, new friends, entrepreneurs, and everything. And I'll start by telling you, I don't really know what to talk to you about, because we are here talking about entrepreneurialism and entrepreneurship, and you probably know it much better than anybody else. And I'll start with the main thesis today, which is don't listen too much to experienced entrepreneurs. Because all of those who have really succeeded, they didn't really listen to advice from others. They might have been inspired by others, but they don't really listen to advice. And this is, of course, the contrarian thing that you will have to live with all your life being an entrepreneur. You come here to Aalto University and you study entrepreneurialism, and then somebody will come and tell you, you don't become an entrepreneur by studying it. You just have to do it. So remember this, that when you don't let education get in the way of learning, and don't let advice get in the way of doing stuff. But I'll talk about my own stuff and what I've done, and then we'll see what happens, and we'll do questions and answers. And how do I advance the slides? Do I touch the keyboard? Or I'm happy to do that. Okay, there, like this. So this is what it is about. This is my agenda for today. It's not sexual education. It's about it's about something much finer, much better. It's about business. So, who can do it? Who can be an entrepreneur? And who can really build a business? Well, I'll start with myself. I can. And I've done it. And I did it 6 times before I did what I became famous for, which was MySQL. MySQL was the 7th attempt for me. And I was in my 40s when it happened. And I'm telling this to you so that you would realize that some guys learn very slowly and they need many, many attempts before they really get it right. But all of them who are successful just never give up. They are relentless in just keeping going, and they know that one day I'll be successful. A company can go under or it can be acquired or something, and you just know that you can do this and you will do it, and you never give up. And then, of course, never giving up doesn't mean that you never change your mind or that you never change your plan. And there's a Turkish saying that no matter how far you've gone down the wrong road, turn around. So when I say be relentless, I really mean you must be relentless in pursuing some higher ambition, but you must also be very dispassionate as to what you are doing, because maybe what you're doing isn't the right thing or the right time or the right way of doing it, or maybe you are not the right person to do it, or whatever. So you must have the flexibility of mind. But I've done that, and it turned out well, and I'm very happy about that. I also have lots of weaknesses, and we all do. And that's why Peter Drucker said that management is the art of making individual weaknesses irrelevant. So when you're building your startup, I know that you would love to recruit like-minded people. That's what you say on your careers page. We like to hire like-minded people. That's fine, but don't confuse it with hiring similar people, because you need to hire different people. You need to hire people who complement you, who cover you where you are weak, because we all have huge weaknesses. And we see it even with the biggest bosses of the biggest companies, that suddenly they make amazing mistakes. And you say, how could that happen? And it was because they always had some weakness, and they had somebody who covered up for them, and suddenly they lost that person or the network around them, and they ended up making huge mistakes. And then not only do I make mistakes and I have weaknesses, I repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And that's the old saying that we don't make the same mistake twice. We make it 3 times or 4 times. But we try to learn. And mostly we learn. But many times, even really successful people, they struggle with themselves because they make the same stupid mistake over and over again. And they try to manage themselves, but it doesn't always work. But anyhow, I can do it, I could do it, I will do it, I am doing it. And so can you. Anybody here can be an entrepreneur. Meaning anybody here can fail. And if you are not ready to fail, you are not ready to be an entrepreneur. And again, all advice has sort of a contrarian side. When you are ready to fail, it doesn't mean that you should fail, or that you should try to fail, or that you should somehow get into failure mode. It's just that when you do something, you must be prepared for all the outcomes. You know, like they say, don't play poker unless you can afford the losses. And it's similar in building a business. Don't go into startup businesses if you cannot afford the loss. And I'm not talking about the financial loss, which is one side, but just the loss of whatever you lose, friends or reputation or coolness or something. If you are not ready for that, then you are not ready to be an entrepreneur. And then when you are ready for it, you can leave that scenario to the side and it doesn't bother you every day because you have cleared it in your mind. Because if you have things bothering your mind, then you are not building a business. And if you don't build a business, then you will fail. So that's a very important point. So I think there are 3 key things that I've learned over the years in sort of thinking about yourself as an entrepreneur. And the first thing is your mind. That we human beings, we see the world not like the world is, but like we are. And no matter how many times we remind ourselves of this, we always forget. We think that we all see colors in the same way. We don't. The human being distorts pictures all the time. Take a picture with a camera and you get a real thing. Look at it with your eyes and the colors will change. And it's the same with business, that so many of us are stuck in something where we're saying this doesn't work, or I know how it is, or it's always like this. And we make assumptions about the world that just are not true. They are in our mind. But if we as entrepreneurs can go outside of it and see things that others don't see, then we can find a business model or a business opportunity that nobody else has seen. But it's really about getting out of the wrong mindset. And sometimes that wrong mindset is around you, and you have to fight the wrong mindset or the useless mindset because it's around you. That's why people say you have to go to Silicon Valley. And then we say, well, you don't have to be in Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley must be in you. Meaning, you must have this amazing mindset that you find in Silicon Valley anywhere. People are just thinking about businesses, thinking outlandish things, planning impossible things, and then doing some of them. And figuring out the restraints of your mind and getting out of them without going completely bananas. I mean, I see so many entrepreneurs who have just completely naive, impossible, silly business model and say, guys, there is no business here. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay attention to the realities of the world. I'm just saying that the reality you see is constructed in your mind. And there can be another reality. There are opportunities that are there if you just are ready to go outside your mind. The next thing is managing yourself, which is by far the most difficult task we will ever do in our lives. And the most difficult you will do if you are a CEO of a startup or any company, but maybe specifically a startup, because you are growing a company and you have to grow yourself at the same time. And you should read Ben Horowitz's blog about this. You know, Ben Horowitz, who is now a VC with Andreessen Horowitz, he wrote an amazing blog about being a CEO and how you must manage yourself. And because if you don't, it's a common cause for failure is that you freak out. Because especially as the CEO, you're a very lonely person. You have no colleague, nobody who can help you. Either people report to you or you report to them or they are your customers, but you don't really have a peer you can go to. So you're very much on your own and you must make those nasty judgment calls. And if you can't keep yourself managed and understand why you are upset or why you are nervous or why you are moving too fast or why you are moving too slow or why you are procrastinating, or why you're not dealing with something. If you don't do this, you will fail. So managing yourself and understanding who you are. And as I like to say, every morning when you wake up, you can be really angry with yourself and disappointed in yourself and think that you're really lousy, and then you'll work hard all day. But when you go to bed, you have to accept yourself and forgive yourself so that you can sleep well. And then next morning you can again say, well, I suck. I'm so bad, I have to work harder than everybody else because I really don't get this. I don't understand this technology, I have the wrong colleagues, I'm slow, I'm lazy, in all of these things, I have to work harder. And then you work really, really hard. But you must learn to manage your own resources. And then when something bad happens, so that you manage that correctly. When something good happens, that you manage it correctly. Because we can freak out both from good and bad events. And I think it was Ben Horowitz, I think it was his quote, I just love it when he wrote, as a startup CEO, I slept like a baby. I woke up every 2 hours and cried. The third thing I have here is maintaining different scenarios in your mind. And this comes back to a thing called the Stockdale paradox, or which is actually, in Finnish, it's sisu. But the Stockdale paradox is about Admiral Stockdale, who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam and was for 12 years and was tortured repeatedly over 12 years and was one of the few who survived. And he said he survived because he was not an optimist. He didn't think they would get out tomorrow. He was also not a pessimist. But every day he said, one day, I don't know when, but one day I will come out of this. And until I come out of this, I will endure any pain I have to endure. So sort of in his mind, he kept two realities going. One was the daily reality of the torture in the prison and the torture of his fellow prisoners, which was perhaps even worse. And at the same time, never giving up hope. That's one thing where you keep two truths in your mind that actually are not compatible. And you must do more of that. You must have this ability in your brain to think through a lot of scenarios that are mutually incompatible and that a normal person would freak out from. You go through and say, okay, in the most positive scenario, this is what could happen, so I'll aim for that. But in the most negative scenario, this is what will happen, so I'll be prepared for that. And then when you have all those, you know too much about your hand, the cards you have been dealt. Yet when you are out there with your team, you must inspire them, encourage them, and you must convey a lot of confidence. And that is a special skill for entrepreneurs in their minds being truthful to what really could happen and how you have to think about it and play it, while in your actual day-to-day work, you are very focused on one thing, you see just one opportunity, and you do that. And we did that at MySQL in 2006 and 2007 when we were preparing to go public. So we're working on the S1 and all kinds of fun things, getting ready for IPO. At the same time, we had huge interest from large companies to buy MySQL. And my CFO told me, he said, "Martin, you know we are on dual track." I said, "What's dual track?" And he said, "Well, it means either we'll get bought or we'll go public." I said, "No, we are not on dual track. We are going public, and I don't care what the interest is in our company." And when I spoke to our CFO and in the management team, of course we had to entertain the discussions and we negotiated with all these companies. But every time when I was out there with the team and with customers, I just one thing in mind. It was, we are going public and there's no other scenario and I don't want to hear about anything else. And this is the only thing we do. But then in reality, in the innermost management team, we did discuss many other scenarios, but we didn't let them disturb our doing, because specifically if you are so successful that somebody wants to acquire you, but then you are already in a very small minority. But if you are there and you think too much about being acquired, that in itself can destroy your business. The moment that thought starts spinning in your head and you say, "Oh, I could become rich, they want to buy my company, what will I do then?" You lose touch of the business you are running. So you must have this ability to have that scenario and deal with it without letting it influence your business, because the business is just running a business. But then if you master these three things, then it's fantastic. I learned them just yesterday or 2 days ago. I'm a slow learner. So then, if you are students here at Aalto, are you better at being entrepreneurs than others? Do you have a higher likelihood? Like if you are in Finland, whether you're a Finn or a foreigner, where should you go if you really wanted to be an entrepreneur? Is Otaniemi the right place? I see concerned sort of shakings and movements. You're not really sure. I'm not really sure. I don't know where entrepreneurs come from. But of course, there's something good happening here. And there's something special about Aalto University and all the schools of which it originated. Something special there that could be good. Maybe there's something bad as well, because not everybody is an entrepreneur. But I think there's a set of values that you have that are very strong and that you may not know because you don't see anything else. You are here with thousands of other people who are exactly the same, and you think the world is like that. Well, I can tell you the world isn't like this. It's a very unique spirit that you have at Aalto, with people working together and doing crazy things and being tolerant of each other and building things together and not asking for permission and coming up with all these Aalto Entrepreneurship Society and startup saunas and slush and all these things that just bubble up and people just do them. That's a very particular thing of the values that you may have that give you an advantage and an edge as entrepreneurs. And then it could even happen today that you learn something in this school, that you acquire real technical and mathematical and other skills. I don't know, because back in the 80s, I don't remember there being any such courses. But that could have been my own problem. Again, don't let education get in the way of learning. But we do have some pretty good teachers here now that we maybe didn't have then. We had some, but I think the quality has gone up and you really can learn stuff that is useful for you. HR management, marketing, strategy, channels, whatever it is, software development. So you have skills. And then there's this spirit of just camaraderie and working together and being egalitarian, respecting everybody no matter where they come from, who they are, how much money they have. That's at least how I remember this place when we studied there. People quickly left to the side all external attributes, and it was just anybody could do anything, and that's a unique thing that you have here. So maybe that it's a good place to become an entrepreneur. Okay, then how do you do it? For real, how do you build a business, and how do you achieve success? And so many times I get this question, Mårten, what's the key to success? And I have two answers. One is, I don't know. Or the other is, there is not a single key to success. Those who succeed have managed to got thousands of things absolutely right. Thousands. Each of which could have destroyed the whole thing. And with MySQL, we absolutely got thousands of things right. Not all of them right immediately. That's a good thing with the software business, that you can fail a few times and still keep going and fix it. So you have more than one shot. But you must get everything right over time. The right people, the right business model, the right product, the right timing, the right target markets, the right everything. And it isn't easy. You just must get all of it right. But I will make it simple for you. I have just 6 keys to success for you today. But then, of course, I can expect you to remember each single one of them. The first one, I just call it 10,000 hours. I don't know where I learned it, but I learned somewhere that to become proficient at something, you have to do it for 10,000 hours. Roughly. If you want to be good at the violin, play it for 10,000 hours, and preferably start when you're 5. If you want to be a good chef, cook food for 10,000 hours. Whatever you want to do for 10,000 hours, you are pretty good at. Well, entrepreneurship is an art or a profession like that. You will have to do it thousands of hours before you're good at it. And you may have to split it up into pieces. Maybe you want to be good at negotiations. Well, then please do negotiate for 10,000 hours and then come back. Realize the seriousness of this. We might have these fancy design factories with cool green colors and stuff, and it all looks sort of nice and cozy, but it's not easy. It's hard work. And what distinguishes the winners from the non-winners is that the winners they don't give up, they keep working. And they keep reading or studying or training or exercising, whatever they do. And it's the same in sports. Whatever you do, if you really want to be among the best, you have to do it for 10,000 hours. And in today's global world, it's even tougher for you guys. It was easy when I was young, because my competitors were fellow Finns. You're competing against the whole world. So that's very important. The second one to the right there is what Darwin taught us. He said, it's not the strongest nor the most intelligent who will win or survive. It is the one most adaptive to change. And he was talking about evolution and DNA. Meaning if you are a banana fly and you have very quick, or a bacteria, very quick cycles, your DNA can change the fastest and you adapt to the environment the fastest and nobody can kill you. It's the same in business. The faster you learn, the more you win. And we are very slow at learning, many of us, because we believe in things and we take things for granted and we don't really pay attention to what's happening. We ignore signals from the outside. I do that all the time. But I just know that if I could learn faster, I could be more successful quicker. So this learning is very important. And this has very concrete implications. This is one reason why the agile software development model is good, because it has smaller batch sizes, faster learning. And faster learning turns into winning. So you should think about how you can learn the fastest. And that's what a startup is. A startup is a learning engine. It's an engine that tries to learn how to run a business. Then when you know it, then do it. But spend time learning and understanding it. Number 3, collaborate. I said that the bad news for you is that you're competing against the whole world, because the whole world is online and everybody is there. The good news is you can collaborate with them. You don't have to do everything yourself anymore. And back in the 80s, when I joined the software business, we did everything ourselves. You couldn't go out and find a marketing agency or a translation agency or any of that because there were none. Today, everything is available. And you can outsource things, you can collaborate, you can create communities, you can use social media, you can find like-minded people. And that means you must, because somebody else is doing it. And if you don't do it, you will have less power. And this is really difficult to do. How do you find the right people out there? And how do you engage a broader network? You are building your business, but how do you build an ecosystem around you where you get benefit from what others are doing, where everybody is doing it for their own benefit? It's not like it's some sort of kumbaya charity where everybody is trying to be helpful. No, everybody is doing it for their own benefit. It's just that those benefits are sufficiently aligned that everybody gets an additional bonus of doing something together. And this is an area where you can't really ask people of my age how to do it, because I'm a digital immigrant. I'm learning this as I go, but you grew up in the digital world and you have those skills in a way that I won't have ever. So you need to innovate this and figure out how to do it. But I'm sure that if you don't do this, you can't be successful, unless you do some very local business. But that, startups are high growth, scalable businesses, or should be. Number 4, strategize. Too few of you really, really strategize. And I know, because many of you send me your business plans, and I look at them, and I realize, okay, these guys didn't really think. They copied somebody's business plan, that's a good start. But then they didn't sort of go through and go through and go through. And I can see on a business plan whether there are 500 Excel calculations that you had to go through before you came up with it, or just 1 or 0. You must do those exercises, thinking, okay, how about the business if it is like this? How about this? How if we about doing it this way? The strategizing work is immensely important, but it will never be prompted on you because nobody's asking for it. You have no colleagues who will ask you to do it. It doesn't show up on any to-do list. It's just something you must constantly do. And think about, what if we do this? If we target these customers, how will it change our product strategy? If we change it, how should it change our partnering strategy? And if that's true, should we do it or should we not do it? And if we do it, will I get the people with me or will they object? And will I have to change the theme? And all that strategizing work. And what will the external world do? And if it works now, will it work 5 years from now? And what is it really based on? What are the assumptions that this is based on? And what if this one assumption is 5% off? Is that bad? If it is 100% off, is that bad? You must do that sensitivity analysis. It doesn't have to be super scientific, but you have to go very deep on strategy, because the best businesses, they understand their environment and their strategy better than anybody else. And they keep working on it all the time. And it's not that you need a strategy, it's that you need to strategize. I don't care whether you end up writing a beautiful plan. I care about whether you are thinking about it every day. Then you must lead. You must have the ability to lead people, whether they are the people you are recruiting or leading in the organization or the ones you are selling to or marketing to. There is no successful business where there isn't a strong leader somewhere. Sometimes it's not the CEO who is the strong leader, but that's usually not sustainable on long term. But it can work for a few years, because when you get the founding team together, you get what you get. 5, 3, 2, 1. I don't know how many you are, but you're friends and you just got together and built the business, and you have to survive with the skills you have. But over time, you must have strong leadership and the ability to get people to see some new thing that others haven't seen. And then the final advice here is the easiest one. Always start with the goal in mind. Whatever you do, think about, okay, where are we heading with this? And not some silly superficial goal that I want to be a millionaire, but some really valuable, essential goal. Subway, this sandwich chain in the US, when he wrote his plan, he set a goal. He said, in 5 years, I want there to be 20 outlets of Subway. Well, he started with the first one, and it just went so poorly. They sold practically nothing. he was running out of money, and he went to his professor, who was his mentor, and said, "Professor, I don't know what to do. There's no business here. I thought it was a wonderful idea. We have these fantastic Subway sandwiches. Nobody's buying them. We need to close this and stop doing it." And then he said, "No, I wrote in my plan that we will have 20 outlets in 5 years. I can't close this one. I have to open a new one." So he had the goal in mind. So he opened a new outlet. And it turned out that the only thing he had wrong was location. And when he opened the second one, it was immensely popular. And suddenly, when 5 years had passed, they had 500 outlets, not 20. But he had this goal in mind of building a chain, and he stuck to it, even when financials would have told him to just stop because it didn't work. So you can use this in big questions and small questions, but always, what's the purpose? What's the goal you have in mind? And how do we get there? And many entrepreneurs forget about it all the time. They get stuck in some common behavior and forget about the big thing where we are heading. And that will then solve everything. Okay. So then, why do we fail? First I wrote, why do Finns fail? And I thought, yeah, this is a little bit sort of with a Finnish slant, but we can fail for a million reasons, so this is not a conclusive list. But there are some things, I do think there are specific danger areas for people who work or live or were born in Finland. So this has a little bit of a Finnish tone, the whole list here. And one is, when you grow up in a place like this where there are, or you live here, where there are few people and long distances and roads are narrow and things are kind of small, then you think small. And I didn't realize it until I moved to California, where everything is bigger, except 5 things we know that are smaller, but everything else is bigger. The trees are bigger, the mountains are bigger, people are bigger, roads are bigger, cars are bigger, markets are bigger, everything is bigger. So you think bigger. And this is what I mean with your mind, that you must take your mind outside of where you are. Like, think back at something like Kone or Nokia when they started growing and became these amazing global successes. Those guys at Kone, they didn't think about lifts or elevators for Finland, because they knew that in Finland there aren't many houses that need them or buildings, but the world needed them, and they had the mental strength to think outside of Finland. So anyhow, so I think in Finland many times we do too little, too early, and too slow. So we're too early because we are so darn technically advanced that we have the idea 10 years before anybody else. It could be that it's 10 years too early, 10 years too early. So we are too early. Then we are too slow because we live in a society where there isn't a rush all the time. It's not like Hong Kong, but go to Hong Kong and learn sense of urgency, or Shanghai. They can teach you and us about how you do things quickly. And I always see this with Finnish people, and they come to Silicon Valley and they start pitching and they say, let me start with the background. I say, no, I'm not interested in the background, just get to the point. But people here think that there's time to start from the background. And let me explain from what village I come and what my name means and what my grandfather thought. Doesn't matter. I mean, it will later matter. So we do too little, we do it too early, and we do too slow. Too little means that we think that we are going global. We are sending one guy to Stockholm. But look at Rovio, how they sort of struggled for many, many years and tried to survive and developed game after game after game after game, and it just didn't take off. And suddenly it took off. Those guys had the presence to immediately bring on board people with global experience who could build it out to global scale. That's amazing in itself. And we don't know the end of that story, but just seeing how quickly they flipped from a really frugal, small, humble business to this amazingly global, ambitious, feisty thing. So they, once they realized that it worked, they didn't do too little, they didn't do it too early. You could say it was late because they'd been around for many, many years. And they weren't slow, they were very fast, immediately established the physical goods that go with the Angry Birds and all the other things that reinforce the brand. So number 2 there, belief in institutions. It's amazing with this country. We think that institutions are wonderful. We believe that every single policeman is honest. And maybe they are, but maybe they aren't. Or even if they are, why do we believe so? Why do we think that there's always a system that takes care of us and loves us and will make sure that we get the best? We think that Tekes will make our company successful, and we think we will become wonderful when we can study at Aalto University. And we think we are great because we belong to some club, and we have some membership card, and we have a plussakortti and all these things. We just believe in those tokens of institutions so incredibly. It's amazing, and you have to go outside of Finland to realize this. And it's good for the society of Finland. So I'm not saying the model is wrong, but it's not good for startup businesses. Startup businesses are disruptive, and they are based on individuals who do impossible things. Institutions do not recognize or are even aware of individuals who do impossible things. On the contrary, institutions are based on the notion that there are no individuals, and if there are, they are not extraordinary. That's the strength of an institution. Everybody is the same. And that it works very well for safety and society and education and healthcare, and we should have that in all of that. But we must realize that as we are building something big, we must step outside of the institutions. And we must succeed not thanks to the environment, but despite it. The third one I call introversion, but don't take it wrong. I'm not meaning that people are introverted, even though, of course, people are. But I mean there are introverted organizations. There are startups who don't deal with the outer world as much as they should and as much as they must to succeed. They have this great team and they sit there huddled together and they figure out things together, and then they forget that half of the time they should turn around and look at the world around them and engage with others. And we don't do much of that from Finland. We can, absolutely, but we must keep it in mind that, like I was talking about, this collaboration, to get others engaged, you have to turn yourself outwards and get the outside world with you. Number 4, there's a perfection dogma. We know so well, and we know how to build the world's most wonderful online banking system in this country. So we think that we always should build the most perfect, wonderful thing. But in fast-moving markets, that doesn't make sense. We should just solve the problems that customers have. And there are many times when we have to leave this perfection to the side and just get the stuff out there. If you aren't ashamed of your product when you ship it, you're shipping it too late. Guy Kawasaki said that in a product to really be successful, you must have a quantum leap improvement. You must have some amazing benefit in the product that makes it so valuable to everybody. And he said, once you have that, don't worry, be crappy. Meaning everything else can be bad, as long as this one thing is good. And we see that with the most successful businesses, like Facebook. They didn't get many things right in the beginning. They just got one thing right. You know, students at select universities who were looking for a date, essentially. That was such a strong value proposition that it didn't matter that it was just a quick hack on MySQL and sort of awkward user interface. But that all worked. And then they started learning in a Darwinistic way and tested what works and what doesn't and built it around there. And now they have 1 billion members. But they didn't state, Zuckerberg didn't state in the beginning that he will build the world's largest social network. No. He was thinking, how can I find nice girls to date here at Harvard? And he solved a very simple problem, and then everything else was just secondary. So he didn't get stuck in this perfection trap where he was sitting there figuring and planning and doing all of that. So like when I said you must strategize all the time, I'm not saying you should hold back on operations while you strategize. You must do it in parallel. And then the final one here relates to the 10,000 hours. Some people just don't do it enough. They think the startup world is some easy path somewhere. It isn't. It's much harder than anything else you can do. So if you really are not ready to work hard, then go back and get some other education and become something else. Lots of great professions in this world that are much easier to master, much easier to make money, much easier to get to all the things you want to accomplish in life. If you want to be a good startup entrepreneur, you have to work darn hard, and you have to sacrifice a lot. You have to sacrifice your girlfriends and boyfriends and children and relatives and hobbies and books and movies and whatever, clothing, but things that you may like to spend time on, but you just won't. And you're saying, no, I won't celebrate Christmas this year because I have to get this bug fixed. And taking it seriously enough, because your competitors will. They are just so devoted to this. They'll do everything to make it work. And if you really want to be successful, you must do that. And there's no shortcut. It's just hard work. Maybe somebody has been lucky at some point, but I don't know of anybody. All the successful entrepreneurs I know have worked and are working really, really hard all the time. And they've sacrificed so much. You see some picture of them in some nice setting and you think that's their life. That's the exception to their life. Most of the time they're working hard. I'm sure people like Richard Branson, I don't know, but I'm just sure that he probably works much more than you think. You see the pictures of him at all these fantastic celebrity places, but that's probably once a month or something, and then 29 days a month he's just probably working, I would assume. And there are probably other reasons as well, but I won't go through them all. Of course, any reason can kill a company, and that's the scary thing. There isn't a single key to success. There isn't just 6 requirements or 10 or 100. Whatever you do, there's always something else that can kill your company. And that's why you must be paranoid. But then when you're paranoid, you mustn't freak out. You must have the nerve to keep going, although you know all these nasty things. And having nerve is what I said in the beginning, managing yourself, really physically having nerve. And there are many of you who don't. You do freak out. You don't sleep at night, or you get angry with your colleagues or something. You start behaving oddly when things are difficult. But if you want to be a really successful startup CEO or entrepreneur, you have to have the nerve to go through very hard times, like Stockdale at the prison camp, where he just said, I'll take whatever it takes, but one day I'll come out. And he did come out. And he didn't look back. He said he decided that he will once come out of the prison and he will never regret anything. He just won't have regrets, and he doesn't, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. And I think actually the Stockdale paradox is a definition for sisu, a very good one. So I think there are wonderful times right now. If you, despite all my discouragement to you here about the difficulties, I think there are 3 good reasons why you can be much, much more successful than anybody else you've seen or followed. And here they are. First of all, the world is connected now in a way it never was. Linus Torvalds, when he started Linux in 1991, there were 4.4 million internet users in the world. 4.4 million. That's nothing. And the guy built the most successful open source project ever. Today we have 2 billion, we'll soon have 3 billion people on the internet. You better come up with some pretty impressive open source project, given how many people there are. So just think about it. The world is completely connected, and you can do things that were not possible today. You can launch a business in Shanghai today. You can travel to Shenzhen and get a mobile phone manufactured in 24 hours. The world is connected in a way it has never been before. Number 2 is it's open in many different ways. One is it's open to you to do things like get access to manufacturing, get access to other things. It's open in the way that hurdles are low. To start a company, you don't need much money. Your parents have a nice house, you could still camp out at home. Software is free because your open source software doesn't cost you anything. You don't need to buy hardware because you can use Amazon Web Services. All of these things. Social media allows you to promote your product. Many things that don't cost you much. So the world is open to you to do things. And furthermore, openness is a strength in the world, which ties back to what you are doing here at Aalto, is that you represent a society which stands for openness. In the government here, documents are open unless declared closed. And nature out there is open to anybody. You have the right of public access. So there's an openness penetrating Finland and Aalto University that actually is good currency worldwide. You can travel anywhere and people will respect the openness that we stand for. And that's a huge benefit when you go out. When you think about how to compete with 1 billion people from China and 1 billion people from India and 170 million people from Pakistan and so on, the thing is we represent an open society which is unique in this world. There are not many open societies in this world. So that's a great thing. And then we haven't invented everything yet. Sometimes people say, oh yeah, we have everything we need, we don't need to do anything more because life is good and everything we ever needed has been invented. It's not true. For good and bad, we've created a planet that is not sustainable, for instance. We need to very quickly innovate how to get out of the troubles the hole we dug for us. So environmental technologies, medical things, fighting all kinds of diseases and parasites, all kinds of areas where we are in urgent need of new innovations. Material technology so that we can build better airplanes and space rockets and whatever, energy, and to all of that you always need software. And when you need software, you can always develop games, because games is the way people get into software. So just games in itself is a huge opportunity, which will be much, much bigger than it is today. We have this view that games is a distraction that we do when we want to escape from reality. 10 years from now, we look back and say games are the reality, or prepare us for reality, and we'll use the learnings from gaming in everything we do, in education and in training and in control systems and so on. So that's just one example, but there's just an even bigger demand today for innovation than there ever was. So with that, it's a fantastic time. Everything is connected, everything is accessible, and the openness you represent is a bonus in the world. And if you really innovate, there's no end to the opportunities you can go after. You don't all have to create a social network or a database or something. There are many new areas that haven't even been explored. So with that, let me stop here. I'm done. I've told you everything I know. I request that you now go out and build the most fantastic businesses, and I want you to report to each other as you do that and build this amazing story that says that what happened at Aalto in those years of 2010, 2011, 2012, suddenly there were just not more entrepreneurs, but more successful ones. And I think you owe that to society. We have built for you a great place in Finland. We built a place where, for a modest percentage of taxes, or maybe it's not modest, you get free education, you get lots of languages you learn, you get healthcare, you get nice neighbors, you get roads that work, you have traffic that works, you have mobile phones that work. It's an amazing society that has been given to you as a gift. Just 60 years ago, it looked much, much different. But now it's a great, great place. So in return, you young guys, need to come up with something very, very substantial. And don't set the bar too low. Because the risk is not that you would set the bar too high and miss it. The risk is that you set the bar too low and you hit it. That's the big risk. So I'll stop here, and are we taking questions? I forget where, there you are. We'll do questions.
Do I have sound? Yes. Let's give a big hand of applause to Mårten first. So, anybody has any questions? Looking silent, a Finnish crowd, I guess. Here we go.
Thank you, Mårten, for very inspiring and thought-provoking presentation. I have actually one comment and two questions. I don't know whether you can take it, but let's try it. First of all, I was surprised that you didn't touch the importance of investors and shareholders to find the right ones. And maybe you can comment that later on. But the two questions I have: how would you factor in the importance of pure luck? The black swan effect?
I'll start in the order you mentioned them. I do think you need investors to build great businesses, and I've always relied on them, but I just think it's secondary. Solve all the other problems first, and you will find investors. And maybe it sounds arrogant for me to say so, because now I'm a known entity, so I can find investors and they're eager to invest, but I really mean it. I think the world pays too much attention to investors. They can be super useful, and great VCs are fantastic, but still, you should first work on the essentials of the business, and then the funding will sort itself out. And that you can learn. You can read it in a book, and so I think it's a secondary skill, not a primary skill. That's why I never cover it. I think it's difficult, but on the order of difficulty, all these things are more difficult. And then you said, what's the role of pure luck? It's probably huge. That's why I try so many times. But somebody said, I found that the harder I work, the luckier I get. And I do think, I believe in free will. I think that we can position ourselves and be ready for good luck when it comes. So a way to state this is that those who have been very lucky, once they were very lucky, they probably had been ready for that luck 10,000 times already. It just hadn't appeared. And once it appeared, they immediately seized the opportunity. So I'm not worried about whether people are lucky. I'm more worried about those who are lucky and who don't see it, and who don't take the opportunity to do something with it. I think luck will hit all of us at some point. But not all of us will realize that it's happening and will have the courage and the readiness to go after it.
Thanks. The last question I have is that if you would be given the full dictatorship for a day in Finland to change the legislation, change the whatever thinking or even people, so what would you do in order to get the?
I wouldn't take the role of dictator even for a second, or I would call you Pasi and say, Pasi, you come and do this.
I was kind of hoping that.
No, there is nothing such.
Because in California there's a couple of things which, quite honestly, they have a huge advantage. The first one is home market. English speaking people, 300 million of those, and the second one is actually the funding. Seed funding, angels, and so forth, and also of course the taxation which supports that. So
taxation is bad in California. It's high, and you get nothing for your.
I mean for funding. I mean, if you're an angel investor,
right? Yeah,
it's good
there
for you.
are all those things, but we have to succeed despite them. I'm in Silicon Valley. I meet all these people from Stanford and MIT and Harvard, and they have all these great things. I think I'm just from Helsinki University of Technology, and damn it, I'll show you that I'm as good as you. And I think you just must take that attitude. You can't. All great things were created out of sort of a miserable situation. Ingvar Kamprad, when he created IKEA, what did he do? He built the furniture himself in his backyard, put them on his bike, and went from El-Mataryd to the next village and sold them there. He didn't ask what the taxation was. He didn't look for VCs. He just knew that the world needed furniture, and he did it. And sure, you need all of that, but you just must follow some amazing passion you have for some truly outstanding innovation. And it's difficult to find the innovation, so that's why you may have to try many times. But just be confident that one day you'll figure it out. And you can do it late in life like me. Or you can do it even later in life. Look at this. Workday just went public. Amazing IPO. This SaaS company doing human resource management. What is the age of the CEO of Workday? Hello, guys. 64? No. They have two CEOs. Anil Busri is around 45. Dave Duffield, 72. He's CEO of a startup that just went public. So if he's 72 and some of you are 22, you have 50 years time to get this right. And by the time 50 years have passed, the medical science has advanced so much, you probably have another 50 years. So don't think about retirement. This retirement age discussion in Finland is silly. But that's another story. We're not here to talk politics. And yeah, maybe that's Pasi what I would change if I had the power for one day. Yeah, I would remove the pension age, except for very physically hard work. Of course, we're talking about easy white-collar work, but there's physical labor where you have to set a limit to how much you stress the human body. But what we do is not very stressful. For the body, I mean. We sleep like babies.
Hi,
Yes.
I have a question for you. First of all, thank you for this speech again. And actually, it cleared out a lot of doubts that I have. And you really inspired me of thinking of my business plan. I have a dilemma here. So you say I am a student in audio technology university, but my passion, for example, is something else. And then also my business plan is following my passion in a way. And I've heard a great saying that, just to do what you love and you will make money out of that. And I think that's a lot of times that if you work for your passion, then you end up happy and rich. But then how do you value the education, for example, in the role of education? What does that play in a way, your way of being successful? And we also see a lot of examples that people drop school and then they started kind of companies in the garage or doing something completely different. So as students here, what other suggestions you have for us? Thank you.
That's a great question. Well, I would start by saying that you can't know whether you will make money, and many of you won't. And that's what I mean. You must have the mental readiness to come back here 50 years from now and have a happy reunion and be equally happy whether you made money or not. And if you're not ready for that, then you shouldn't be entrepreneurs. Then if you make money, that's fantastic. I know when you make money, you can do amazing things. So don't underestimate the fun part of money. But I don't think you can, if you target money, then money is all you get in life. And that's not enough. But your real question was, how about education? I don't know. I don't know if I studied something I needed or didn't need. But I'll tell you, I thought I studied technical physics. And I was just asked what I would do if I would have to make that decision now. I would study technical physics. I've never worked with physics in my work. But I felt that going through the hardship of graduating from technical physics, that was what I needed. I needed this self-realization and knowing, hey, I'm pretty good. I finally graduated. It took a number of years, but I graduated, so that was one. And for me, it's very important to understand. I see the world as mathematics and physics. So I'm very happy that I had to learn to solve the Schrödinger equation, although I can't do it anymore, because it helped me think about difficult problems in real life. And the techniques we used for solving mathematical problems actually, to me, applies in everyday life, in human resources and other places. And I just believe in that. So to me, I would absolutely study it again, although I have had no plans to do anything with physics. I just thought it was, for my brain, the absolutely right exercise to do. But again, I come back to you, and I'm not joking. 50 years from now, when you are, whatever you are, you may actually have 50 more years of lifespan, because medicine is developing. And my message to you is, don't look at your parents and grandparents who could afford just one education. Time-wise, they didn't live long enough, and money-wise, they couldn't pay for it. But you guys, you will, through your life, have time to do 2 or maybe 3 different educations, because you'll get bored. So do your physics now, or whatever, puunjalostustekniikka, or pulp and paper, whatever you do, and do that for 10 or 15 years. You're still young. Then you can do a new education, and you can do a new career. And I think we'll see life changing in this sense. People will have multiple careers, and it will be natural, because doing the same thing, we were not built for this. 10,000 years ago, our average age was, 35 years? We died when we were 35. So if that's your lifespan, then it's enough to learn one trade. But when you live 70 years or 100 years and you can be productive until you are 70 or 80 or 90, you really have, you shouldn't plan for dying, you should plan for living. Meaning you should think about not retirement, but learning new things. And then you look back and say, it didn't matter what I studied back then, it was useful for me to show that I could do it, and then I learned many other tricks along the way. Of course, if you have a very specific career ambition, maybe you need to study it. If it's biotechnology or fuel technology or something, of course you have to focus on it. But many here are generalists, and then I think you can do many things. I see that in Silicon Valley, where many who have studied English major or history or something, so nothing relating to technology, and they're very good in technology.
Okay, hi, my name is Mark Johan, and I would also like to thank you for your amazing presentation. I think we are all privileged to have you here and have the opportunity to listen to your ideas. I have 2 short questions. The first one, what is your day-to-day motto, your mantra when you wake up? What do you think? What's the one?
My mantra is one day.
One day at a time?
No, one day I'll get everything I ask for.
Okay.
If I don't get it today, I'll get it one day.
Okay, and the second question is a bit harder. You have the situation of multiple doors. You have like 10 great ideas. You got the facts on the table. You maybe have the people ready. And then you just have to open one door. So did you have this situation, and how did you solve it? Was it just a feeling?
Oh, you mean in joining Eucalyptus? Or
No. I mean, when you started, when most of the startup people have several great ideas, several.
Yeah. I think this is just a general decision-making situation, and I've been trying to figure out how many distinct, different decision-making situations there are, and I don't know, but at least 2 that I know of. That I see them every day. One is, I know what the right decision is, but I don't like it. So I'm trying to entertain the other one, just to pretend there is an alternative, but in reality, I should just get real and do whatever is obvious. That's a very common decision-making situation. The other one is where you say, which one of these 2? It's so difficult to decide. And I've had those many times, like 2 great VCs, which one should we work with? When you have those situations, or it can be more than 2, but you have this, however you score them, they all score very close to the same level. In those situations, it doesn't matter. I think all of them are then good. And then you go back to this philosophical statement that if it happens, it's good. If it doesn't happen, it's better. And whatever happens is best. So, meaning you follow your instinct and you just never look back. You just say, it must have been the right because that's what I chose. Because I believe we have so much impact post-decision that even if there are small fluctuations in sort of the likelihood of success, your impact is so much bigger that it will outshine anything else. And when you look back, you said, oh, how lucky I was to make that choice. But actually, maybe you were not lucky. It was just that you were going to make every choice successful. Reminds me of this one Nobel Prize winner who he got the Nobel Prize and he was having dinner with his wife and they said, oh, my wife, aren't you lucky to be married to a Nobel Prize winner? And she said, well, I don't know. Whoever I would have married would have become a Nobel Prize winner.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question.
Hi, my name is Nina Ignatius and I'm from Finland. I was wondering if you could tell whether you have had or still have persons in your life that might be or might not be from your business, but perhaps a family member or somebody who you feel might have inspired you, maybe not knowing what your businesses have been about, but somebody that you trusted that has been a guidance somehow for you?
Yes, that's an excellent question. I have a long answer because there are many answers.
Great.
And I, just starting in, I have heroes I look up to. So, I think Mannerheim was a huge hero for me, and I never met the guy, obviously, and I don't know everything about him, and I probably have fantasies about him that are not true, but I sort of project on him all the great leadership skills that I admire, and I say, he's my hero, and he still is. So there are people, so he doesn't know, he's dead, but he wouldn't have known even that he had that impact on me. And there are other people like that some I have met, some I haven't, where I just think, wow, I'm really impressed. So that's one thing. Then secondly, I do think that when you are an entrepreneur and you have this lonely job, you need somebody who believes in you. And I've said this before, you need somebody who believes in you more than you believe in yourself. Because no matter how strong we are mentally, there will come a day when you say, I screwed it, it doesn't work, I'm giving up, I shouldn't continue. And then somebody must be there to kick your ass or comfort you or console you or somehow show more faith in your abilities than you have yourself. And I think we must have such people. If you don't, and they can be anywhere, but you must have them to survive, because you will get into some really difficult moment when you would love to give up. And at that point, somebody must prevent you from giving up. So I think we need that. And can be a parent, can be a spouse, can be a boyfriend, girlfriend, just a friend. Maybe it can be a dog or a cat. You're sitting there looking at the dog saying, I'm giving up. And the dog is looking back saying, I'm happy. And they say, okay, I'm not giving up. I don't know. I mean, you can do it any way you like, but you must have that. But then the third answer is, I'm not always good at it, but I try to. It sort of came from, I'll start with the background anyhow. When I went to talk to VCs, I always decided that I had such bad experience with the VCs, I said, damn it, I will make sure every time I meet the VC, I get the benefit. Even if I don't get money, I get the benefit. So I had some questions for them, I had them educate me. So I always walked away thinking, okay, I gained something. And then I realized that you can do it with every human being you meet. And you don't always have the energy for it, but you can step on a bus and then you decide that for the next 10 seconds, this bus driver is my mentor. And, Finnish bus drivers may not appear to be mentors, but if you decide, you say, I will squeeze some mentorship out of this guy, whether good or bad, you can do that. And you can let other people help you. And if you always do that, it actually works. It's really difficult to stay focused on it, because many times you would just say, I'm so fed up with human beings. I don't want to see anybody or listen to anybody. But if you can have that mental fortitude to just decide that whoever it is, it can be a little baby. You say, this baby is here now to teach me something. I wonder what it is. Because I do believe in this Japanese saying that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Meaning, if you are ready to learn, there's somebody around you right at this moment who can teach you something. And if you are open to listening, you learn. And it can be a grumpy bus driver. Even they have something. They may have more because they see so many people. They may know more about life than they let you know. So that's my take on it.
Any more questions? How is your time, Mårten? Do we still have time for questions?
I don't know. I don't have a watch.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to leave like 10 to 7, so I have 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
But if you have loads of drinks here to serve or something, I don't want to be in the way. Yeah. But this was great. Oh, there's more questions. I'm happy to take more.
Yeah, I'd like to come back to this good analogy to sleeping like a baby. So when you sleep like a baby, so what keeps you up during the night? Is it the unanswered emails, or is it the life-work balance, or is it just being Mårten Mickos?
Yes, I think it's the last one. Now, when you don't sleep well, and it happens, it is because you are worried about yourself and your own abilities. Because we all have that in us. We are all small babies, and we are always looking for validation from the world around us that we are needed. Everybody has that. Even the strongest, biggest, most successful person. Inside them, they are very, very soft, and they are looking for validation. That's why you get so far with flattery, because people think you're validating their worth. So when you don't sleep well, it is because you are worried that you are not good enough for your task. And it happens occasionally to me that I wake up at 3 a.m. and I feel really bad, and then some thought comes back to my mind, some problem I've been thinking about for the last few days. And then I'm upset with me for waking up because I thought I had trained myself to always sleep well. But I don't always sleep well, but I try to do that, because then I'm better at problem solving.
Okay, now we're starting getting more and more questions, but that's a good thing.
Thanks. What did you learn today?
Today I had one of my best days at Eucalyptus, because I listened to a customer present what they are doing, and it was so amazing. And well, I was a little bit disappointed with myself for not being able to express our value proposition and the usefulness of our product so well. But this customer did it so amazingly well. So I nearly started crying listening to it. I said, wow, is it really this fantastic? Because when you are in this grunt work and you go through all kinds of things and people come to you with problems and so on, you go into these moments where you just think, okay, let's keep working. One day it will be good. And you forget that you actually have customers who are amazingly successful. So to me, that was, I really snapped when I heard that. And after that, I forgot that I've jet lagged. I came from the US yesterday, and this morning I did wake up at 3 a.m. because I was worried about my own abilities and all of that. But then suddenly this customer, just in a very natural way, explains how this works. And I was like, wow, it's true. This really is true. It works the way we have said, which sounds obvious, but it was fantastic. It was just absolutely fantastic.
Thank you so much, Martin, for the talk. I have a question regarding your recommendation for startups related to their actually Silicon Valley strategy. So considering that your customers or your market and your partners or whatsoever are based in Silicon Valley, and of course this depends on the situation, but what would be your Silicon Valley strategy? I guess the most hardcore being, okay, let's drop Thesis, all the Thesis stuff here, and let's incorporate to Delaware, and let's just bring the whole team, to Silicon Valley from the get-go, or then stick in Finland and just visit Silicon Valley once a year. Thanks.
Well, I have two principles. One is you don't have to be in Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley has to be in you. And number two is follow your customers. So sometimes I meet companies who come to talk to me and say, we are going to establish a presence in Silicon Valley. And it turns out that they are selling to the entertainment industry, which is in the Los Angeles area. Or they are selling to the pharmaceuticals who are in New Jersey. And I say, don't come here if this is not the main place for you. Because Silicon Valley is a trading place. You go there to sell your vegetables or your fish. It's a marketplace. Everybody comes there with their produce and then they sell them to each other. But if your customers are there, don't go there. And if your customers are there, then get some customers first, because the world is open. There are no companies in Silicon Valley who wouldn't buy from a Finnish company if the product were good. They may say you must have a support person locally, and that's easy to arrange. But you can sell before you go there, and that's how you reduce risk. I admire those who just go to Silicon Valley and incorporate there and move everybody over, but it's a huge risk. Because what do you do if you fail? Or if it takes 3 years longer than you had planned? Then maybe you just need not just your mother's credit card, but your father's credit card and your uncle's credit card and many other credit cards to get by. So I would be careful and go there when you have evidence, early evidence, I think. But it's company specific. I can't give a generic answer, really.
Okay, I just think we still have time for one more question.
Hey Martin, it's Antti, running Startup Sauna. Nice to
Yep.
see you again. I think this was the 7th or 8th time I hear you give a keynote. Keeps on getting better every time. Wanted to give you a compliment. A lot of the stuff that you say, I keep on coming back to it. Maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now and saying, damn, he was right. I should have listened. Just a quick question.
And I have that every time I say something, I say, damn, why don't I follow my own advice?
Exactly. Practice what you preach. Quick question about, because you had a very cool culture at MySQL, what you've told about, all the unique trips to the Hungarian baths and was Roman baths and the trip to the desert and whatever you did. Any similarities that have gone from MySQL to Eucalyptus because of you in terms of company culture?
That is a really interesting question, which is a difficult one because I may not know. But I can tell you that when I took the Eucalyptus job, I decidedly wanted to go in there sort of as a new and clean guy, not coming in with a lot of luggage. And I know my colleagues, every time we have a management meeting, they keep track of how many times I say MySQL. So now I have to say a database company I worked for. But I had that mindset that you cannot replicate culture. Culture comes out of the people, and there are different founders, and it's completely different style. So I don't even want it to be the same. And there's some things where I say, this worked at MySQL, why don't we do the same? But when it comes to culture, we don't. And I'm happy we didn't. We had this all-hands meeting for Eucalyptus in Santa Barbara. It was an amazing meeting. And we did things there that a MySQL would never have done. With this amazing rock band playing, with an amazing soloist singing, and we had this Indian guy playing the flute and dancing, all amazing performances from these people that I had no idea we had inside our ranks. And if I had tried to instill a culture too strongly, I might have suffocated those expressions. But it's difficult because culture always comes, well, I think culture comes primarily from the founders and secondarily from the leader. And I must know as CEO that I can own Eucalyptus and it can be me and I can be Eucalyptus, but it will always have the culture of the founders. With mine added, but the founders' culture will always be there. So when I joined, it was very important that I agreed with the founders' culture because I realized it would stay there, whatever we did, forever. And that's what I like about it. But culture is difficult. As you're building it, you are trying to figure out what to do, and you hire people, and they come in with new ideas. So it takes years to really form. Okay, thank you. This was great.